Assalamu alaikum. This is Faraz Khan. Thank you again for joining us. We are trying to get better, and the way we're doing it is through practicing and learning fresh 2021. So, a fresh year, a new year, and then we're taking care of fresh stands for, you must know this by now. It's a test from your heart, these 5 pillars we've been talking about. Finance, F, relationship, education, spirituality, and last but not least, which is today's topic and the final day for us to be together. As you're listening to my voice, I really appreciate your time. The thing that I set out to do from the very beginning is to give you quality, to make sure the 10, 20, 15 minutes that I take of your time, it should be quality, something that you walk away with something good and something practical. And I've been reading a lot of comments, and I really appreciate your involvement. And the best way for me to feel good about what I'm doing is to find it that others have adopted or have changed their practices or have become better, whether it's finance, relationship, education, spirituality, and health. With that introduction, today we're going to talk about health, and I just can't wait to talk about this. This is a topic where there's a lot of talk, but if you look at the practical aspect of it, what we see out in the world, we really feel sad about what is happening. But anyways, I'm going to talk about this. Health, sorry, not for sale. So just remember that you have to put time and effort into this for it to be at premium level, inshallah. One disclaimer I want to say at this point, I am not your physician. I am not your psychologist or psychiatrist. I am not your nurse, definitely. So please consult with proper people when you are looking into a medical or a physical health advice. So my work here is to provide entertainment for you today, and hopefully you'll get some benefit from it, okay? Next, inshallah. There are 3 things that I want you to be aware of when you think about health. Most people, what they tend to do is they think of health and they say, oh man, I got to lose 10 pounds. Or they think of health and they say, I got to cut out that, pizza or lasagna or whatever, that's on their mind. Or drinking soda, hopefully not drinking something, else worse, right? But this is what you have to think about. It's a trifecta effect, right? You have health is wealth, that's for sure. First and foremost, take care of your mental health, right? When you talk about health, where are you in terms of your mental health? That's very important because it starts from the very top, right? Top of your head. And number 2, physical health. And that is very important as well. And by that, I mean exercise, making the right decision, sleeping well, and things of that nature. And third, nutritional health. And that doesn't simply mean over the counter or what drugs, or, what type of vitamins you take and what type of, no, by that, I mean really nutritional health that you have to, on a daily basis, take care of. Not the extra, but the core. Okay, so we'll talk about these 3. Spiritual health, some people do talk about that. I just wanted to point it out that we covered spirituality as the second last component of F.R.E.S.H. So you may want to look into spirituality from that perspective. We're not going to cover it here when we talk about health. So health is much more than avoiding sickness. And I want you to start paying attention to that. Many people, they think of health as an exact opposite antonym for sickness. And it is true to a certain degree, but that shouldn't be your goal in life. Your goal in life should be to look at health from this perspective. Health enables us to perform at the highest level of physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, nutritional realms to not only appreciate everything, but to contribute positively to it. And it's a lot of words together, but I want you to pay attention to this. Remember the very first thing we talked about? It's the idea here is to live to give and grow. So you can't give anybody anything, and you can't grow for sure when you can't live in a healthy way. And so all of F.R.E.S.H, really, finance, relationship, education, spirituality, they're really based on your health. If your health is not good, then you can't really grow in any of these other fields. So one has to recognize how important health is, you know. So it's like all of F.R.E.S.H is really based on or dependent upon health. And so not only we have to appreciate it, we have to look at health as something that will give us that boost to have the optimum level of performance, right? And so just like any athlete, they want to make sure that they're at the best when it's time for competition, when they meet. So we have to make sure that we do that. So mental health, I want to first talk about that. And just a brief: from darkness to light, hold on tight, stand up and fight, stand up and do what's right. This is just a reminder about mental health. People tend to get bogged down. They get stressed out, and there are a million things that they have in their lives, and they're running around, and they're not focused on what should be their priority because they've never written down their priorities. It's all in their head. So when you have things in your head, what tends to happen is you get stressed out pretty fast. If you're just trying to think about 8 things that you have to do for the whole day, you already stress yourself out in the beginning of the day, and your performance will not be peak performance, guaranteed. Okay, and the reason for it is because people have known this for decades. There has been a lot of psychological research about people and performance, how they perform their best, and it's not when they have all these problems and issues in their head. So I call it 80-20 rule, right? And there are different versions of 80-20 rule. And the rule that you should have, which makes 100%, right, obviously, is that 20%, whenever you come across something that's stressful, 20% of the time, right? Oh man, we got a problem. Think about the problem 20% of the time, right? And then move on very quickly, right? So you have a problem, whether it's sickness, whether it's job security, whether it's promotional stuff, whether it's relatives, whether it's, loss of financial gains or capital or bank account, whatever it is that comes your way, 20% of the time only, right, maximum, to what the problem is. 80% of the time after that, first you got, hit by the problem, you realize what the problem is, you spend your time looking into the problem, and now from here on, 80% of the time, you should dedicate, as a rule, again, this is just an advice, I've found out this is very helpful when I work with this type of scenario or this type of formula. I spend 80% of my time trying to resolve. I move on very fast. I train myself to move on very fast from the problem, and not run away from the problem or ignore the problem, but to go from problem into solution mode. And once you get into solution mode, then you are able to think. Then you're able to move around and try to come up with creative energy and creative solutions for the problem. And the problem, it is what it is, right? Now it's time to resolve it and not sit on the problem and not to cry over the problem and not to self-pity, right? That's not a good situation to be in. So I just want to point that out. It's very important. Mental health, don't let it drag you. Do not let it drag you. And there are people, and I could tell you this, it doesn't matter if you're a very spiritual person, it doesn't matter if you're a very well-off person financially, or if you are in a tip-top condition in terms of your physical health. These people go through mental health issues, from time to time. And it doesn't matter who they are. It could happen to anybody. So you need to be focused. And if you focus on your inabilities, right, the things that you can't do, soon you would lose your mental stability. So I want you to remember that. Focus on the solution and not on the problem. So mental health is a big part of what we're doing in terms of health. It all starts from the top, as I say it. Resentments, Don't get eaten from within. And this is part of what stresses people out. They're psychological, psychologists, they put stress and anxiety and all these things in different levels. One is acute, the other one's over a period of time, right? So I just want you to understand this. There are things that you could do if you're having, problem today, or if you're stressed out, that, exercising, eating right, sleeping well, these things could help you. And then there's stuff that happened in the past that you can't really go back and take care of, but it's eating you from within. Those are called resentments, right? And it has an effect on you. And a lot of times people just kind of sit and mourn, right? And it's like 20 years later, they're still mourning something in their head, or they're missing something that, should have been there for them, or something like that. So I want you to be aware that what it leads to, right? Because it leads to depression, and that's not a good state of mind. So, continuous thinking about the problem and not solving it, right? And sometimes what we have to do is, there are certain things in life that you can't, or I can't solve. That's just, the problem is bigger than me and you, right? So what do you do about it? Sometimes it's good to just kind of read the problem, write it down, and then go to the next page and say, you know what? I can't solve this issue. It's bigger than me and myself and I and my life. But what I could do is, I could just not pay attention to it, because that's not my priority and that's not my focus. My focus is doing the right thing. My focus is growing. My focus is living. My focus is loving people that are in my life. My focus is to be the best that I could be. My focus is to be happy. My focus is to have a spiritual connection with God. My focus is to be who I am and accept the things that I've been given. There are certain things that I can't change about my skin color, the way I look, right? How tall I am, all these other things, right? The culture that I'm born into, the place I was born. These are things I can't change. So I'm going to focus on things that I could change. I have control over, right? So you stop thinking about the negative things and you start moving into the positive direction, what you could do. So I want you to be aware what resentment, depression, all these things lead oneself to self-abuse, such as drugs and other alcohol and other problems, because they need help and they go after chemicals in their bodies to help them stabilize mental state, and it only does worse, and we know this for sure. So that's the effect on yourself. The other thing is what type of relationship you enter in with others. Physical or emotional abuse by neglecting or abusing those individuals who are under your responsibility or around you. So those people who are not mentally stable, they tend to have really bad relationships. And then their worldview about God and the world changes dramatically, right? Have you ever met somebody who's always complaining? Have you ever met somebody who's really negative and everything is wrong and everyone's there to harm them, or they just have poisonous attitude, and it's like almost very, very difficult to build any type of relationship with them. And the reason why, because what's in their head, the way the belief system, you can't get rid of that belief system because it's so negative and so putrid that only pollution of the world will happen with that mindset, right? So it's best to avoid those individuals, and it's best if we find within ourselves something like that to just kind of like move away from that mental state. So I just talked about some of the bad stuff that happens and people linger. Very quickly, this is, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not giving you advice that, that only a medical professional could give you, but this is just to share what some people have found to be helpful. 5 ways to improve your mental health. Number 1, prayer leads to miracles, definitely, for sure. Meditation, this is what you're into, it is a key to improving your mental health. Start with 10 minutes breathing exercises, sitting down. I find myself, sometimes just needing that time. Early morning that's like the best time. Walking outside. I know it's, even though it's cold, I like to just step outside and be with, the environment. Stay away from like all the other stuff that's around me that's protecting me, so sort of, from the cold, the weather. Just be with the nature. Um, I'm not talking about the birthday suit here, but just be with the nature, if you know what I mean. Just take a walk or something like that. The other thing is choose your words wisely. Use positive words. Um, Use words that have positive emotions, and avoid the negative ones. Obviously, sometimes people don't realize the power of negative words, and sometimes we say things to other people that may hurt them, and then there's a negative energy that comes, reflecting upon us. Not only we feel bad, because every time I don't know if you've noticed, every time you've had an argument where you went like over the line, over the limit, didn't you feel bad, like internally, like that was like awful, right? That wasn't a good thing to say. If you're a healthy person, I think that's what happens. People do feel remorse after this, and that's just an indication of more negative stuff, like I shouldn't be doing this. And so we have to make sure that we choose to pick positive words, praise people for what they do, be thankful, show gratitude, think and act positive, and again, cut out the negative people, cut out the constant news feeds and negative people, and the perfect lives on Facebook, right? God help us, how many people and their vacations are so perfect. It only takes like about 70 photos to get one good photo, perfect life, right? That's on Facebook, right? Um, Instagram's gaining, so. Anyway, so now I want to talk about physical health. And that's the second aspect. We talked about mental health. Hopefully, it gives you some ideas and understanding if you haven't really paid attention to that topic. It's very important. It all starts from you, and then those around you. Hopefully, you could inspire them as well. Lifestyle changes you can make to improve your health. I think the biggest thing. I want to give you a story before I talk about all these things. There was this is a story that's shared by Stephen Covey in his book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I believe that's the one. But I'll give you a paraphrased version of it. So a teacher asked his students, you know, there was a jar, empty glass jar, and then there were three cups, and or three other jars that were full of. One was full of sand or half sand. The other one was full or half of like large rocks, and then the third one contained water. And he looked at the big jar that was opened, glass, empty, and he says, "Can you put all three of these things in that jar and without spilling water?" And the students looked at it and they were like, "No, you can't do it. There's just too much stuff. It won't fit in." So he said, "Well, okay, help me out. Which one, if you were going to do that, if you were going to solve that problem, rocks, water, sand, and now you have empty jar, glass jar. Which one of them will you put in there?" And they said, they weren't sure. But anyway, so he took which one? Rocks, water, or sand? He took big rocks and he placed them in the jar first. And they kind of stacked up and they were within the glass jar. Then he took sand and he poured the sand all over, and the sand fit into the cracks, the area between the rocks. And then he poured the third beaker or the third cup with water, and the water went all the way through the sand and rocks and filled up to the top of the jar, but didn't spill anything. And he said, "Do you know what you just learned here, or what we just saw or observed?" And the student said that, you could fit those three things in there. And he said, "No, that's not the point." He said, "The point is this. If you're able to fit in the big things, and if you plan ahead and you fit in the big things in your life, those other smaller things like sand and water, right, will find a proper place and will fit into your schedule. But the big thing is to find that balance and the priority list to fit in the big rocks that are crucial to stabilizing and that provide a foundation to your good life. So having that understanding and analogy, I want to give you this. Physical health, 8 hours of sleep, right? That's just like one of those rocks that will sit in that jar. And if you have a good night of sleep, it would really serve you well. So many people avoid that. It's just a huge misconception in this culture that not sleeping and only cutting corners on sleep and working hard late, right, will give you something in the future. It will just cause you to be burned out. So 8 hours of good sleep, that's those are the rocks that we should place. Now the other things I want to talk about is remove the chair from your desk. You'll gain a new level of flexibility, right? A new level of strength in your back and lower back and your feet as well. Get low on the ground. Start sitting and eating on the floor, right? That what it does, and I'm not talking about eating off the floor. When you sit on the floor as a practice, if you're able to, I do not know your physical health conditions and your age, but when people start doing that, they gain a new, flexibility. If they simply sit on chairs all the time, they lose their flexibility. By the time they're in their 40s, they can't sit on the floor. They just can't do that. It's mind-boggling that people, they're our bodies, we're designed to sit on the floor. It's not like we can't do that. But anyways, the other thing is hose it down, hydrate yourself, make sure you have enough water. Obviously, these numbers are dependent on your body type, your weight, your height, all these other things. The weather, right? If it's hot or cold, dependent on all these figures. But hydrate yourself. It would serve you well when you're working on something big. Stretch your body to new limits. Try yoga. That's one of the good things that you could do. Health Buddy to keep you in check on health. Challenge yourself to walk longer and harder. 30 minutes of walking can burn up to 150 calories fat off your body. Obviously, that's dependent on your body type. So I just wanted to point these out. There's time and place for everything. And I got these 5 exercises that are kind of like universal, right? So take that 7-day challenge. I want you to, go for push-ups, sit-ups, lunges, running and walking, stretching. There are 2 things that I've added. Actually, it's wintertime that I've found to be very, very helpful, especially getting that cardio and your breathing. So the 2 exercises that I also added to my regimen is the first one is running in place and like doing as fast as you can for 30 seconds and do it 2 or 3 times. And that would get you, really gassed. You would be looking for water and you'll be, breathing really heavy. 30 seconds, that's all it takes. Running in place. And then the other one is mountain climbing, right? So getting down on your hands. If you don't know what that is, you could look it up. Mountain climbing and then just doing it for 30 seconds a couple of times. And believe me, you will be breathing heavy before you know it. So just want to share that. Nutritional health, I would want to, and again, I can't really give you anything that's health-wise, that's for everybody every day. You obviously have to look into it, but the important thing is get started. If you're not doing it, and if you're already doing it, put about an hour. Do your best, inshallah. So I want to just give you that 7-day challenge. Now, nutritional health. Some people that have this mindset, I eat, therefore I am. They live to eat, basically. And if you ask them, they're on seafood diet, right? You know who you are. And basically the concept behind seafood diet that they have is, I see food, I eat food. I see food, I eat food. So please, it's I can't say enough about it. So I don't even have to say anything about seafood diet, right? So I want to move on and I want to share this with you. So the old food pyramid used to be this for the healthy nutritional stuff that you should be putting in your body. And now it's become more of a 5-pillar, where grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, and meat and beans become the 5 pillars of the healthy diet. And that goes along with big part of this is adults should be physically active for at least 30 minutes most of the day of the week. Children for 60 minutes. And 60 to 90 minutes of daily physical activity may be needed to prevent weight gain or sustain weight loss. And I want to talk about it from this perspective. I know we have a few more minutes, inshallah. I want to finish this really quickly, but I want to talk about it from this way. The people spend so many cosmetics and so many things about staying young, right, and not getting old. And if you take care of your health and exercise and eat right, those people who don't do that, they, by the time that they're like 30 years old, they look like, those people who don't take care of their health, they look like they're 50 years old. People who smoke, they look like they're 10 plus years. It's just, that's the way it is. Even people who smoke in their 20s, they look like they're 35. That's just, they age so fast. It's unbelievable. At least that's my understanding, or that's how I have experienced to be around those people who have done that. And obviously people who do, we do work with a lot of people outside, people who use alcohol or abuse drugs. God help them. I mean, they look terrible. They look, you could see somebody and you could just wonder when you talk to them, like, what is happening with this individual who's abusing his or her body. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm going to move on. You could read it, you could pause it, you could go back to these slides and listen to this one. It's a little bit longer than the other 5 or 6 audio videos we have done. The last 2 slides, prophetic diet, right? Or this is what you could call pre-industrial diet of people. And it had 3 simple fundamentals or pillars to it, right? If you're looking at food, look at it from this perspective, okay? And these are general guidelines, these are principles, right? And well-balanced diet simply consists of this. I'm not going to talk to you about low in salt, low in carbs, avoid cholesterol, all that stuff, and you could read up on that. But I want to give you the principles. And what I found from the prophetic diet, Prophet Muhammad, how he ate, and people don't die from eating less. People usually die from eating more. That's what's true in our modern lifestyle and society. So number 1, well-balanced diet, it consists of moderation. Okay, perhaps you need 1 plate rule, right? Just 1 plate. Okay, and that's it. I mean, once you're done, you're done. Number 2, simplicity. Cook with less ingredients and time, right? You just make it simple. Your food is not like this, I call the halim problem. Halim, I don't know if you know that dish. You have to cook it for 8 hours. Just eat the food and get ready and go do your business. Once in a while you could go for the halim too, but simple is better. Less ingredients, better it is. It will taste great, and you won't have to have all this toxic stuff in your body and detox your body, right? Keep it simple. Fasting would help as well. And then the last thing is organic. Avoid factory made. Less meat, obviously. Avoid factory made stuff. Fresh from farms and not from factories. If you're able to do that, great. I know people have dietary restrictions, they have allergies and all these other things. We all struggle with these things. So just a overall picture. Last point I want to make before I say goodbye here, and thank you for being with me for these days for this program. The challenge that I have for your physical, mental health and nutritional health is this. What if I loaned you my pet and I said, just take care of it, take care of its feed the pet, put them in the proper place to sleep, make sure they, and then I will come back and I will take care of it, right? It belongs to me. I will have it again, but only for a few days. That's the challenge. Would you take care of my pet? Now, I want you to look at it from the perspective of your body, right? Your physical health, your mental health, right? All of that. It's been given to you. It's been loaned to you, just like I've loaned my pet to you, right? This has been given to you. Will you not take care of what's been given to you, what you have borrowed, what you have been loaned? People have, very, very like spiritual goals and financial goals, and they don't take care of, they take for granted the thing that is the best thing that has been given to them, right? It's their body, it's their mental capacity, it's their existence, and they don't take care of that. And what a shame that, when we say a mind is a terrible thing to waste, what a shame, right? That they came to this world and they didn't do anything remarkable. So I leave you with that note. Do something remarkable with your life. Move the world, change the world. Get up and get going. Don't sit there. Don't be one of those people who moan and groan and complain. Be positive. Be a positive influence in your life and lives of others. Think of this world as a blessing. Move from that negative direction into the positive way. And if you've been doing that, kudos to you. You have the right attitude, and I'm just here hoping that your journey and my journey will lead us to a good destination. Thank you again. This is Faraz Khan. You've been enjoying Fresh, a better finance, relationship, education, spirituality, and health. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.